A big news item, not surprisingly, today is the continued conversation about the Azerbaijan Airlines plane crash. So, this headline is on the Guardian website, and my question is he really apologizing? You know how some passive aggressive people, the manipulators, the mental and emotional abusers, use the kind of apology that's not really an apology? I think this is exactly one of those times. Because what he actually said was Russian air defenses were active because they were repelling attacks from Ukraine while airplane was trying to land. But he never admits that it was Russian air defenses that actually shot the plane. The response from Azerbaijan was to emphasize that the airplane encountered physical and technical interference while it was in Russian airspace, showed the multiple holes punched in the aircraft, the injuries that were sustained by the passengers and the crew. So the testimonies from the surviving passengers and crew. So I don't think they're buying it. And let's rewind this for a second and consider how it came about. Ukraine has been calling for closing the airspace above itself, above Ukraine, since the Malaysian Airlines airplane got shot down by the Russians over the Donetsk-Luhansk region back in the summer of 2014. But there's been a pushback to that because basically everybody, starting with the UN, said that doing so would be an open declaration of war. Okay, so the skies over Ukraine remained open, and then of course Russia invaded Ukraine. Ukraine started making more and more distant forays into Russian airspace using drones and various ranges of missiles, but mostly drones. The drones were used very carefully against Russia's military objects. So, in this particular case, I agree with Zelensky. It is kind of important to know what exactly happened. And not only that, it is important to remember the events that led to this. Why were Russian air defenses active? Because there was a potential drone attack from Ukraine. Why didn't Russia close the airspace, considering that they knew this was going to happen? And more importantly, why are there drone attacks from Ukraine? Oh yeah, hello, because Russia is invading Ukraine and murdering its civilians. So maybe let's go to the root cause of this. Just saying, you know this. Everybody knows this. Russia is never going to directly admit responsibility. They're going to blame it on every fucking body. In fact, some of the Russian pundits are already blaming Ukraine for this. So, they're refusing to close the airspace. They're refusing to admit responsibility. And what does that tell you? And again, how many more civilians who have nothing to do with any of this have to die for everybody to understand that Russia is a global threat and it's kind of important to do something about it. At the same time, Russia's Federal Security Service, FSB, which is an extension of the KGB, says it had foiled a plot by Ukraine to kill another high-ranking Russian officer and a pro-Russian war blogger with a bomb hidden in a portable music speaker. It's okay. There are plenty of other objects Ukrainian Secret Service can use to revisit the issue. It's fine. And here's the thing. So for those who would ask, I can understand targeting high-ranking Russian military officials. Those are directly the people who give orders to the troops and so on. Why would you attack a blogger? Russian bloggers have become a dangerous force in and of themselves because they are the ones who are spreading lies about this war. They're saying that Ukraine is overrun by Nazis. They're saying that this is a proxy war by NATO or by the US or by Biden or by, anybody but not Russia. So these are the people who are doing that, who are spreading this information. So in a way, they're culpable in the continuation of this war, every bit as the military officials. The conversation continues about the sabotage of an undersea power cable that was connecting Finland and Estonia. Again, how many acts of sabotage does Russia have to commit before it sinks in that it will keep doing this? As long as there are no consequences that are tangible personally to people making these decisions, and we all know who it is, they will continue conducting these acts of sabotage, cyber attacks, meddling in other countries' elections, and so on and so forth. And of course, the struggle continues in the Kursk region. As I mentioned many times before in prior reports, personally, and again, this is just my opinion, it does not have anything to do with the opinion of the Ukrainian government or the opinion of the allies, etc. This is just me as a human being, okay? So, I think that those troops should be brought home, considering the losses they're suffering, and considering that it's very unlikely they're going to be able to hold on to that scrap of land that they have won from Russia. I think it's time to withdraw and bring them home. They're more needed at home, and they probably all could use a break. Now, I understand the strategic purpose of this. The little wedge of land occupied by Ukrainian troops sits like a basically splinter in Russia's side, because they had now spent months and months and months and months trying to dislodge Ukrainians, and they just wouldn't dislodge. Okay, so some of the effect that this had is pulling Russia's troops away from the hotspots, like the Southern Front, like the Eastern Front in particular. So that is important. And of course, again, there is the psychological value of saying, see, we can do an invasion too. We just choose not to because we're not a bunch of assholes. But at this point, I think that operation had served its purpose. I think they should bring him home. But we'll see what happens. So far, it doesn't look likely. So it's also possible that Ukrainian government wants to use the Kursk region as a bargaining chip in the conversation about giving up Ukrainian territories. So we'll see. This is Los Angeles time, but I think it's worth perusing this particular article because they're right. Again, those of us covering this war, talking about it, keeping attention on it, have been pointing out for so long now, this is never going to stop at Ukraine. This is a global risk, including a risk to the United States. So, this is absolutely true. The war is going to grow in footprint and in influence unless Russia is stopped. The battle zone now does extend deep into Russia, and they are having to activate their air defenses. And what I would encourage every single airline in the world doing flights over the Eurasian continent, look at your routes. Look at your routes, overlay them with the map of the long-distance drone attacks that Ukrainians have been carrying out, which means Russian air defenses will be on. Is it safe? Give it a thought. We do not want to lose another passenger airplane.